So now it will be there. Is it coming now? It must be coming now. Fine. So, so I want to tell you one important thing issue here. So as per your syllabus is very, very less in the first 3 units. It will take 1, 2 to 3 classes for every unit, hardly. If I take it in a proper way, if I plan it in a well organized manner, it will take hardly 3 classes. HTML will take more. CSS it will take 3 classes only. We have already completed 3 to 4 classes in CSS. Actually, for CSE students, they have the same subject. Subject name instead of being web design, it is web technologies. For them, all these three concepts like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, all these three together, they have a single unit. But for you, it is like HTML is the entire first unit, CSS is second unit, and third unit is JavaScript, right? So for them, it will take some time to complete unit one. But for you to complete first 3 units, it will hardly take 10 to 12 classes. Already we have completed that many classes, I think. Almost we are near to 10 classes, right? So JavaScript I have to start. But if I start JavaScript, will be going into the third unit. We'll be going into the third unit. So I'm not covering all the CSS topics in this class because as per your syllabus, how many topics you have, only that many topics I'm covering to you. I'm not covering the entire topic. So you have many other properties. Out of your interest, you can go and learn several tags that are there in HTML, several properties that are there in CSS. Just now, before starting the class, I have gone through your syllabus. I thought your syllabus is more, so I have to complete it fast. But when I looked at your syllabus, I was surprised to know that syllabus contains very few topics. The syllabus contains very, very few topics, and first 2 units is nothing. Anyhow, these are not the topics which we need to pay more attention because they are only useful for what is for making your web pages look attractive. The more we need to uh, we need to focus is on the topics like JavaScript, PHP, and JSP because they are the topics which actually gives the functionality to the web application. So this HTML and CSS is just for presenting the data, and your application will be completely static. So at the beginning, I was telling you uh, something about static web pages and dynamic web pages. Static web pages, dynamic web pages. What are the static and dynamic web pages that you need to understand? So till now, whatever web pages that we've created, they are all static web pages. They are not dynamic web pages. So what do you mean by static web page means? If your web page contains purely HTML and CSS code, then it is a static web page. And when you perform any action on the web browser, on your browser window, nothing will change in the web page, right? But coming to dynamic web pages, when the user performs some action on the browser window on a particular component of a web page, then the content of the web page will be changing dynamically. Dynamically means for every action there will be an immediate reaction from your web page. So then we say that web page is a dynamic web. Okay, so we cannot create dynamic web pages using HTML and CSS. HTML and CSS are just used for presentation purpose. And the code that we write as part of this HTML and CSS, we call it as a presentation logic. Presentation logic. So your application that you're creating will contain two different types of logics. One is presentation logic, the other one is business logic. Presentation logic and business logic. So we are confined till now only to the presentation logic. We are not exposed to something called the second one, the business logic, right? So when you say HTML and CSS, they are used only for presentation purpose, and the code that we write using these two technologies, we say that code as a presentation logic. Presentation means what? How to present the data that is available with us uh, on a web page. In what manner we are going to present the data. Whether you're going to present the data in the form of a heading, in the form of a table, in the form of a paragraph, right? So, that is nothing but presentation. So what is the purpose of HTML and CSS? They are just presenting the data that we embed in between those HTML tags. But are we dynamically changing those contents of the HTML tags? Say, for example, let me open HTML programs. So I'm opening this. So this page contains these contents like Vidya Jyothi Institute of Technology as a heading at the top. Then another heading, web design course, anchor tags like this, unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. Right? So when I click on this unit 1, you are able to see the change. We are going to a different page. This page is different page, unit1.html. Right? So we cannot call this as dynamic because you are directly going to a different page. You are navigating. So what do you mean by navigation? Moving from one page to another page in your web application is nothing but called as a navigating. Just like when you turn the pages in your text book. From one page, if you want to go to another page, what you'll do, you'll turn the pages. So turning the pages similar to navigating a web application in web design or web technologies. Okay, so you're just navigating from one page to you're currently at the home page. From home page, when you click on unit 1, you're going to unit1.html page. You're navigating to that, and again when you click on unit 2, you're going to another page called unit2.html. So that way you're just navigating. So we cannot call this as dynamic because the content on your web page is changing. So when I click on unit 1, here the content is displayed as unit 1 topics. And when I click on unit 2, the content now changed to unit 2 topics. So because this is changing, don't think that this is dynamic nature of your web page. Right? So this is still static nature of your web page only because you are going to a different page. So when do you say a web page is a dynamic page? When you say a dynamic web page or static web page, you are referring only to that web page. You are not referring to some other web page. When you are clicking on these anchor tags, that is hyperlinks, what is happening is you are moving from one page to another page. So that cannot be called as a dynamic web page. When do you call a page as a dynamic web page is instead of going to a new page, when I click something, when I perform an action on the user. So clicking on this link is also an action, right? So I may click on a button, submit button or a reset button or this. Then when I click on the button or something, if the content is changing in my web page, if the content is changing, then we say that it is a dynamic web page. Say, for example, I'll show you. So now look at this web page. This is having a drop down menu like this here. Select number of students. So this drop down has 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4. So depending upon whether I choose one, if I choose one, then I'll get enter batch information and another drop down. then enter academic year, and student one details like roll number, name, section, mobile number, email, right? So if I choose number of students one here, then you'll get a form, a dynamically generated HTML form, which will display uh, some text fields or drop downs to enter the one student's information like roll number, name, section, mobile number, and email ID. If I now modify this to 2, then I'll get two times the same fields: roll number, name, section, mobile number, email. Right? So what is happening here? The user, that means I am the user now. I'm using this application. So when I perform an action of selecting 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is here, then what is happening? The content in my web page is changing dynamically, right? So now you can call this web page as a dynamic web page. This page is not a we are not navigating to some other page. We are in the same page, but in the same page, the content is changing. Right? So if you refresh first when you open this page, what is that you are having in this page? Only you are having a heading called project management, and then you have select number of students, a drop down. That is it. What you are having. But when you select any of these 1, 2, 3, 4 options, depending on what you selected, the content is different, changing, right? So if you select 3, then you're getting 3 student forms to enter all the 3 student details. If you're selecting 2, then you're getting only 2. If you're selecting 4, then you're getting 4. And along with those 4 fields, you're also getting select project. It's common for all the options 1, 2, 3, 4. So whether it is major project or mini project, you're able to select here. Then you can type the academic year in which you are now. And also a submit button is appearing at the bottom. So you can click on the submit button and submit the data. Right? If you don't enter any data, you're getting this. Please fill out this field. Right? So this you can obtain this uh, alert like please fill out this field by giving required value at the end of every input tag. So you are going to create an input tag, right? This is a text field. Type is equal to text you'll be giving, and this entire academic year information that is used by using a property called by using an attribute called placeholder attribute. Fine. So when you use that placeholder attribute and give mention its value as enter academic year, then you'll get this inside this text field. You'll get that message here, so that you'll understand what to enter in that text field. Instead of giving a label like the student one in front of this text field, I'm entering directly. I'm displaying the information what is supposed to be typed in this text field inside the text field itself in the background. So that background can be obtained by using the attribute called placeholder attribute. I hope I have taught you about this placeholder, how to use this placeholder. So let me show you this program, the code. I have used Bootstrap here. Anyhow, this Bootstrap is not part of your syllabus. And I used Ajax also. Ajax and Bootstrap together, I used this one. So let me open this code for you. So to use the Bootstrap and all, I used all these links. So don't you worry about that links. I have written some JavaScript code also here. Ajax, actually it is not completely JavaScript, it is Ajax code. And this is written in PHP. So actually you're going to get this content from the PHP program. All those student 1, student 2 forms that we are obtaining by selecting students number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that is obtained from PHP actually because I'm using Ajax here, so I need PHP. So look at the placeholder or how I'm using. If I use this placeholder is equal to roll number, Then in the text field inside that I'll get the roll number. So you are able to see that roll number here, right, inside the text field. And in this field you are able to see name, and here mobile number, and here email. So that is possible because of this placeholder. For the text field where I'm supposed to enter name, I'm giving placeholder is equal to name. After that, at the end of the tag, before you close the angular bracket, I'm giving required. So if you give this required, what will happen is if you don't enter anything here and click on submit button, then this will ask you to fill out this field. If you remove that required field, required there, then it will not ask you to enter this detail. So if you want to make any particular field mandatory for the user to enter, then you have to give required here. Okay, so that the user will not ignore that field. And if he is ignoring this field and clicking on submit button, then immediately he'll get an alert like this. Please fill out this. If I enter say here 20 2021, now I click on submit, then it will ask me to fill out this roll number. Say if I enter this one also, click now submit, then it will ask me to enter the name also, right? Then say I'm going to enter some ABC. Now click on submit, then it will ask me to select the section also. So if I select section A, now I don't enter my mobile number, then I'll click here. Then again it will ask me to enter a mobile number. Now I'll click on submit, it will ask me to enter email ID. Again, if I click on submit, it asks me to enter this roll number of second student, student 2 also. That way, until I fill out all these fields, I'll get this alert like this, right? So if you don't want this to happen for all the fields, if you want only some fields to be mandatory, except those fields, you remove the required property at the end of that input tag. Then you'll not get this. So now, if I remove this required field here, so let me remove this number. Click on submit, refresh this page. Now if I don't enter and click on submit for 2021, so is it asking me for roll number? It is not asking, it is only asking for my name, right? Why? Because I removed required here. So if I give required here, then it will ask me to enter even the roll number. Ask for roll number also, right? So these are some of the miscellaneous things. And something else I want to tell is try to learn all the topics out of your interest, because for a application to be created, the important point is not the presentation logic. It is about the functionality of your application. Functionality of your application in the sense, for example, you are creating a registration page. You have created a registration page. So let me open one example program for you. Now this is a login page. So if you want to, if you are a new user, if you are a new user, Shweta, Sundara. Now if you are a existing user, you can type your email ID and password and click on sign in button. But if you are a new user, then you have to click on sign up. Then a sign up page will appear. You need to choose your username and then email ID and then password and click on sign me up. Then you will get an alert message that you have successfully registered. And after that, if you click on sign in here, then it will ask you to enter your email ID, your password, and when you click on sign in, then you'll open this page. So it will display here VJIT, then whatever username you have created for your account. So it is displaying hello Tarakeshwar, and sign out link also is provided to you. And if you click on sign out, then you will be logged out. So there are links provided to you here. So based on what you are clicking, update profile, view profile, then it will display the respective contents. Right. So if you want to sign out, if you click on sign out, then you will come back to this page. Right. So this is how a web application works. This is a dynamic web application. What is happening here? When you click on sign up here and use and give some username here and email ID and password and click on sign me up, what is going to happen is all the data that you entered here, this is going to be stored in a database. It is going to be stored in a database, right? And when again you try to sign in, when you enter your email ID and password here, these email ID and password will be checked with the already stored email ID and passwords in the database. If both are matching, then it will redirect you to the home page. So from there you can use your account. After using the account, you can sign out from your account. Then you will be logged out of your account. So this is a simple, very simple registration and login system, a simple dynamic application. So the content keeps on changing in your web page when you perform actions, as and when you perform actions. So such is the kind of application. And now your application has, this application has some functionality. What is that functionality is, I can choose my email ID and password, and when I click on sign in the background what is happening is some data is retrieved from the database, and that data is compared with whatever data I enter here, that is email ID and password. If both are matching, then only it is allowing you to go to the home page of this application, and then you can start using this application. Otherwise it is not allowing you to use this application. So this activity that I performed in this application here is nothing but functionality, right? So for any web application, the functionality is very important first. So give more priority to the functionality instead of giving more priority for HTML code and CSS code. HTML is important, but more than that, functionality is more important, right? CSS is not very important. You can construct an application and make it work fine without CSS. The functionality will be there still, right? The CSS will only allow you to make that content that you are presenting using HTML in an attractive manner, so that users will be attracted towards that application. That's it. But even if you are doing that presentation very well, and if the functionality is not happening in a proper way, right? Even though you give a password properly, and if the application is saying wrong password, then you can you call it as the application is an efficient application? You cannot call it so, right? So your application must choose what is must decide which is wrong and which is right properly. Even if I give a right password also, if it is saying a wrong password, then we cannot say that it is working properly, right? So its functionality is not right. So focus more on functionality than presentation. Presentation is very simple. You can learn this CSS and HTML very easy. I need not teach you all these topics at all, but formality, for the formality's sake, because they are they are part of your syllabus, I need to teach you all these things, right? So so I've delivered my part as part of your syllabus. I have covered a little bit more than what is there for you in the syllabus. Want, I'll share you the syllabus topic. I think I already shared the syllabus to you, I guess, in your group, right? So I don't want to spend more time on this CSS and HTML because it is very easy. I want to start JavaScript, a new technology called JavaScript. This is part of actually third unit. So after that, you may think that already we are into third unit and the syllabus is almost over. But don't think in that way. So even if I complete JavaScript after 3-4 weeks or so, I may start PHP also, because that is more than JavaScript. PHP is further more important, and then after that JSP. So I want to spend more time on these three technologies. First, I want to spend more time on JavaScript, and then little bit more time on PHP, then JSP, because they are very important and they are more related to the functionality of your application rather than presentation. So I already told you what is for any web application you have something called business logic and presentation logic, right? So presentation logic and business logic. Presentation logic can be obtained, can be done using HTML and CSS, cascading style sheets. Right? They are not going to give you the functionality, but this business logic is very important because this is going to give creating the functionality. Without a functionality, without this functionality, if you have just HTML and CSS, it is of no use, right? You created a web page where you can display your information like your name, biodata, etc., etc., all this. But uh, the web page must not be visible to must not be accessible to everyone. You want that web page to be accessed by only by some authenticated people. Then what you need to do, you need to use the login system and registration system. Only those who register and login, then only your data must be visible to some people. So are you using your Facebook account without just logging into your account? Without creating an account, is it possible to access the content on Facebook or Gmail, whatever it is? Right? So what is the purpose of this registration and login system is to provide security to your information so that only few people will be able to access, permitted people will be able to access your data. Right? So after logging in also in a Facebook, if it is so, for example, whoever is in your friend list, only they will be able to see whatever you share. Right? Other people will not be able to share. Right? So that is also next level of security that you are giving, or privacy that you are giving to your data on any application. So this functionality you can achieve only with the business logic. So what is the technology that you're going to use for constructing this business logic is, so to some extent you're going to use JavaScript, and then in our syllabus, whatever topics you have, I'm confining only to that topics. I'm not going beyond those topics. You have in the next 3 units, you have JavaScript, PHP, and JSP, right? So these three technologies, they are going to help you in creating a functionality to your web application. Though JavaScript will not allow you to interact with database, it requires PHP and JSP to interact with the database. But JavaScript, what it is going to do is it is going to provide some little bit interactivity to your application. So till now, all your HTML web pages and CSS that you used in all the web pages that we created so far, they are not interactive, right? But JavaScript, what is it going to do is it is going to make your web pages a bit interactive. So you enter something and click on some button, then your web page will respond back with something else. But the current HTML pages that we are doing, they are not responding to our actions, right? So that's the reason why we call them as static web pages purely, right? So JavaScript will make your web pages a little bit dynamic, but not completely dynamic. And PHP and JSP will make your web pages completely dynamic. So I want to spend more time on this because there are a lot of things to explore in these three technologies than compared with these two technologies, HTML and CSS. Right? So if you want to cover the remaining topics which are not there in your syllabus, I'll suggest you many websites there are. If you just Google HTML tutorial or CSS tutorial, you will get number of online tutorials available, so you can explore them and know different properties and all. Use uh, CSS as well as some other tags which we didn't cover, which because we covered only the basic HTML tags, because only basic HTML tags are part of syllabus. Okay. And you can also vary the size of the font also. You'll have a font property, and for that you can mention the font size also. With whatever size you specify, the text will be displayed with that size. And coming to Bootstrap and Ajax, they are beyond your syllabus, not just for you, even for CSE also. They are not available in the syllabus for them also. So if you want to learn all those things, you need to first understand all these technologies that you have in this subject. Once you gain better understanding on the technologies that you learn in this subject, then you can go in the next level, in an advanced level, learning Bootstrap, Ajax, or Node.js or React.js, right? So before that, let us go and discuss about JavaScript. I just want to give an introduction to JavaScript today, and then start JavaScript in the coming classes, that is tomorrow and next week. So let us spend more time on this JavaScript uh, than we spent on HTML and CSS. But coming to JavaScript, it is like a programming language. It is not similar to HTML and CSS. So it will have syntax similar to, a little bit similar to C language, Java, and some topics will also have some similarity with Python also, Python programming also. Okay, so but this will be definitely easy when compared with C and Java. You need not install any additional software for learning JavaScript, because all the browsers that we are using, they are JavaScript compatible. They can run JavaScript code and give you the output for the JavaScript programs. Fine. So, but syntax will be looking similar to C and Java. And if you have already learned Java, then JavaScript is nothing. One important point I want to tell you, when you're learning programming technologies, if you learn Java and if you can master Java, then any other programming technology is nothing for you. Because in my view, in my point of view, compared with any other programming languages like Python or C or anything, C++ and all, Java is a little bit tough and vast in syllabus, in topics, but the functionality of Java is very good, because using Java you can perform almost everything. But some other programming languages, they are limited. Say for example C language, you cannot interact with a database using C programming, which you can do with Java, right? And using Java, you can create user interfaces like this, like you do it in web pages here. You can create web pages using purely Java. Okay, and even using when you're creating web applications like this using HTML, along with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can also use Java code. So you're going to learn Java server pages, which is based on Java programming only. So, so Java is that important, and if you learn Java programming language, then it will become easy for you to learn any other programming languages in this world. Be it PHP, be it JavaScript, be it Python, or any other new languages that are going to come in future, that are existing in the past also. So they'll all become easy for you to learn if you master Java programming. So if you are good at Java, then JavaScript is nothing for you. Even if you're not good at Java, if you know the fundamentals of C programming, that is sufficient. JavaScript will become easy for you. Okay? So, so before going into the depth of this JavaScript, let me tell you uh, how to write JavaScript, where to write JavaScript, and all. So JavaScript is a basically JavaScript is client-side scripting language. What do you mean by client-side scripting language when you say scripting language? So I already told you there are two types of scripting languages: client-side scripting language and server-side scripting language. PHP and JSP, they come under server-side scripting language, whereas JavaScript comes under client-side scripting language. Right? So, what is a scripting language actually? Before that, we also use a term called script. First, let me tell you what is a script. A script is nothing but a program that runs when a user performs an action. Okay? And this action can also be called as event. What is a script? Any program, a program written in any programming language, which will be executed not directly, but when a user performs some action. Whenever a user performs some action, as a result of that action, if the program runs in the background and generates some output for you on the screen, then such a program is called as a script, right? So don't think that script is something. Script is nothing but a program. Basically, it is a program. But when this program gets executed, it is not going to be executed like C language or a Java language program. In this command prompt here, if you type Java commands here, Java C space file name dot Java to compile Java program, then the program gets compiled, right? So unlike the way you run Java programs and C programs, even Java programs can also be called as script. They can be executed in the background with by simply uh, performing a action on the browser window. That also we'll see later when we are learning JSP, even in PHP also we're going to see that. But as of now, what is a script is a program written in any language like Java. It can be in JavaScript, or it can be in PHP, it can be in JSP. There are many other languages other than this which are there in your syllabus. There is another topic called servlets, which is again from Java programming only, and then ASP.NET, which comes under Microsoft .NET technology, and even Python also you can use. So using whatever language, if you write a small program, and that program executes whenever user performs some action, then such a program is called as a script, right? And what is this action? It is also called as an event. So event and action are interchangeable. So you can use any of these terms. And what is this action means? This action can be selecting a drop down, an option from a drop down, or it can be selecting a radio button, or checking a checkbox, or unchecking a checkbox. Anything can be an action on a web page. When a user, or when you click on a submit button in a HTML form, so you have created HTML forms, right? For example, this is a form. So you enter some data here in all these fields and click on this register button, right? So nothing will happen because this is a static web page. But when you click on this register button, if you want some Java code or JavaScript code or PHP code to be executed, then we need to write that particular programming code. So that code gets executed only when you click on this button. Until you click on this button, the code will not be executed, right? So that is the meaning of executing a program whenever the user performs an action. So here in this case example, in this example, what is the action? Clicking on this button is an action. Even here also, so when I click on the sign in button, a program will be executed, a script will be executed in the background, which is not visible to the users. Right? The script gets executed when I click on this button. Similarly, when I click on the sign up here, also another program gets executed. If I click on the sign me up button, also another program gets executed. So all those programs that are executed whenever a user performs an action like clicking on this button, or in this case, earlier I showed you another example, right? The localhost EMS. Here, when I select two options, then another program gets executed there in the background. That is also a script. So these are all actions. These are all actions. Selecting an option from the drop down like this is an action. is also another action, but I didn't write any script for this action. So if you want that script to be executed, first you need to write that script for this action. So till now we have created these drop downs and radio buttons, text fields, and all these things, and submit buttons and all these things, but we didn't write the corresponding script program that must be executed whenever you perform the clicking on submit button or selecting an option from this drop down like this. For all these actions, the corresponding scripts are not written yet because we were learning only HTML and CSS. But now, what you're going to learn is you're going to learn JavaScript, using which you're going to write scripts, right? But where the scripts are going to be executed, the scripts that you're going to write using JavaScript, they get executed on the client machine, that is the browser itself. So let me uh, put out here, if a script is executed on the client machine. When you say client machine, it is nothing but a browser, right? So on behalf of that client machine, machine means computer device, maybe a laptop or a personal computer. And on behalf of that computer, who is working, a software is working, and that software is nothing but the browser. So if a script is executed on the client machine, that is the browser, then that script is called what? Called client side script. It's a client side script. And the language, the programming language used for writing that script, called client side scripting language. Okay. Similarly, let me copy paste this because I need to change only a small thing. If a script is executed instead of client machine, if it is on a server machine, right? So instead of browser here, say this is a remote computer. Because it is not there with you, it is somewhere located in a remote location, far away from you. So we call this as a server machine. Then the script, what is the script called as? It is a server side script. Server side. And the language used for writing that script is called as server side scripting language. Okay. So uh, that is how you can classify scripts into server side scripts and client side scripts. If that script, that is nothing but a program, if that program gets executed on the client machine, that is in the browser, then we call that script as a client side script, and the language that is used for writing that program is what called as a client side scripting language. Similarly, if that script gets executed on the server machine, then we call that script as a server side script, and the language used for writing that script is called a server side scripting language. So examples here for server client side scripting include the JavaScript. JavaScript is a server side scripting language. This is the only alternative. There are some other alternatives are there, but they are not widely used. 99% of the web applications use JavaScript. And based on this JavaScript only, you have many other technologies coming into existence, already came into existence. For example, you have uh, Ajax. Ajax is based on JavaScript, and even Bootstrap to some extent is based on JavaScript. Okay, and Node.js is based on JavaScript. React.js. So JS in the end means what? JS stands for JavaScript. Node.js in Node.js, JS stands for JavaScript. All these technologies, they are built upon, they are built above this JavaScript programming language only, JavaScript scripting language only. Okay, so if you learn this JavaScript technology, then in future to learn any other technologies like Ajax or Node.js or React.js, AngularJS, there is another thing called AngularJS. So all these things will become easy for you to learn them. This is a prerequisite. So JavaScript will be a prerequisite for learning all those technologies. So that is the importance of this JavaScript. So don't ignore this JavaScript. You need to focus more on this JavaScript than the focus that you had on HTML and CSS. And coming to the examples of server-side scripting languages. So in your syllabus, you are going to learn PHP and ASP. But apart from that, you also have servlets which are part of Java. There is ASP, which stands for Active Server Pages. ASP stands for Java Server Pages, and ASP stands for Active Server Pages. So this is ASP.NET. So there is another thing called Cold Fusion. You can also use Python also as server-side scripting. In that way, there are many technologies available for server-side scripting, but coming to client-side scripting, where there are very few, and out of those few, JavaScript is the main that is used because it is open source. So even in all the server-side scripting languages, PHP, JSP, servlets, all these are open source technologies. Coming to ASP.NET, this is not open source. This is a product. This is a licensed software. And even Cold Fusion and Python are also open source. The only thing which is not free of cost is ASP.NET. So if you want to develop ASP.NET applications, first you need to download a licensed software to run these applications from Microsoft Corporation. Then only you'll be able to run them. Coming to PHP, JSP, servlets, these are based on Java. JSP is based on Java. Servlets is also based on Java. Apart from that, you also have the same from Java. You also have Spring, Hibernate, Struts. These are all frameworks that are part of Java. Right? So these are also based on all these three are also based on Java programming. They're all based on Java programming, just like uh, AngularJS, React.js, Node.js. All these are based on JavaScript for client-side scripting. Uh, or these Spring, Hibernate, Struts, JSP, servlets. These are all based on Java. Okay, so let us now discuss about this server-side scripting language now because our focus must be on JavaScript because our topic that we are going to learn next is JavaScript. Okay, so this is the introduction that I want to give about scripting languages and client-side scripting language, that is JavaScript. In the next class, we are going to see how to write JavaScript programs and where to write them and how to run them. All these things we are going to see in the next coming class. So one more thing I want to tell you, if anyone is interested in developing a complete web application using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, or if not PHP, JSP. So you can choose anything. Server-side technology, you can choose either PHP or JSP. If you want to do a project on this, by the time you complete this web design subject, if you want to develop any application, please form as teams, 2 or 3 people together. You can form as a team and let me know. You can come up with an idea. If you don't have an idea, I'll give you an idea. You can work out on that and develop an application. Why I'm saying is because now you're going to have some placement drives in this year because you're in final year, and ultimately, uh, because you're not going to get jobs in your core sector. So you know the placement activities happening in any college, uh, particularly if you look at our college scenario, how many companies are coming to uh, recruit you from your core branch of engineering like electronics or electricals or mechanicals? You don't find many companies, right? So did you find L&T coming to our college and recruiting students from civil engineering, or any other electrical companies coming to our company, to our college for recruiting from triple E students or electronic students, right? So most of the placement activity is related to software industry, right? So if you have a project in your resume, if you can develop an application either using a PHP or a JSP, anything, put it in your resume, because this subject is there in your syllabus. uh, then it will add a weightage to your resume. You can perform well in your interview, and that confidence levels you will possess after developing an application like this on your own. They'll be entirely different. So I request, it is up to you. I'm not making it as a mandatory thing, but once you develop a project, what will happen is you will gain knowledge comprehensively in all the topics. So in all the 5 units, you have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and JSP. Right? So you will get complete thorough knowledge on all these topics, because you're going to use them in a real-time application by in developing a practical application. So then after that, even if you don't prepare for exam also, if you can remember the syntax and all, you can put it in a proper way. Then you can perform well in the exams as well. Okay. So please request anyone by today evening, if you can form as team and contact me, you can text me in WhatsApp. For those who have not texted your roll numbers in the chat, please text your roll numbers and you can leave for today's class. We'll meet in tomorrow's class again. If you have already texted your roll numbers, that is okay. Otherwise, you can